Good morning, fifth grade. Today we are going to examine Day Day's ghost story from using the plot pyramid. The purpose of this is so that you can write the story, the same ghost story, from one of the sisters' perspectives. So first we want to figure out the original plot diagram or the plot pyramid, and then in guided reading, you are going to turn it over on the back and we're going to look at what if the story had been different, what details in the plot diagram would we change. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm starting at the bottom of page 61 and we are looking for the exposition. The setting, the situation, and the characters. We want to be able to write one sentence that includes all three of those things. Alright, I'm at the bottom of page 61. We were coming out of the rapids almost 2 days from Boating, in a part of the river I knew all too well, when I tasted a storm. The last thing I wanted right about then was a storm. I wanted to get my men and our canoe past the spit of land. It's shaped like a little hook and juts out into the river. The name of that place is Where the Sisters Eat. I wanted to get past it because we were hoping to catch up with a certain trader and sell to him. Besides, as I'd heard it, nobody liked to camp there at Where the Sisters Eat. Strange things happened in that place. All right, we're going to keep reading the next paragraph. You're thinking of who are the characters, what are they doing, and why are they doing it? Still, when the sky opened and the rain poured down, I decided that my fears were foolish. As much as my men wanted to go on, I decided we had no choice. They grumbled, but we pulled into shore, dragged our canoes up to the drier ground under the pine trees. By then the rain was driving down hard. The wind was shaking the trees. There was no question of making a fire. We just had to wait it out in the cold, in the dark. So I heaped pine needles and soft branches in a bed, rolled myself underneath the canoe in my blanket. So far, everything was fine, I thought. Maybe the stories I'd heard about the place were lies, things that never happened. I turned over to try to get a little sleep. We'll stop right there because we have information about the exposition, the character, the setting, and the situation. And in this box that says exposition, I would write, while Day Day is on a trip, a storm is coming. And he had to stop at a place called Where the Sisters Eat, even though he didn't want to. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. All right, now we're listening for the conflict. I'm going to keep reading at the bottom of page 62. I had barely dozed off when a sudden shaft of lightning hit near, struck a tree, and crashed down in the woods. All I could do was hope I had chosen a lucky spot where lightning wouldn't strike, where no trees would topple down. I should have taken my tobacco out right then and offered it up to the good spirits. I should have remembered my mother's ways, but I did not. And here is what happened after I fell asleep again the next time I woke. I came awake with a jolt, uneasy. Too quiet. That's the first thought I had. Too quiet. No wind, no rain, no moonlight either. The clouds hung thick and heavy as a priest's black wool robe. I waved my hand in front of my face. I couldn't see the barest outline. That's how dark it was. That's when I heard them. I heard the women arguing over bones. There were, of course, no living women within hundreds of miles, but I was groggy and didn't think of that. All I could think of was how loud these women are talking. "Hey, you ladies, be quiet! Someone's trying to sleep here," I called. For a little while they lowered their voices, and then their argument broke out again and they started to shout. They had settled down to quarrel near my canoe, and I was steaming mad. "Becca Yan!" I yelled at them, loud and harsh, to be quiet. Again they lowered their voices. But just as soon as I got comfortable again and started to doze, they broke into loud chatter once more. It wasn't that they sounded ugly, their voices were high and sweet, that they were having a disagreement. It was just they were so loud and right over my head, sitting on the canoe. I heard the weight creak under the spruce ribs. You be careful out there. You be careful out there. I was getting even angrier. They took no notice of me, just continued their excited disagreement. Here's what they said. You give me the first meat, sister. You take the first bone. Give me the second meat. You take the first bone. I'll have the foot. I'll have the head. No, you won't. I'll have the head and leg too, sister. How shall we divide the others? Let's gamble for them. Let's. It's a good thing we raised this storm, said one of the sisters, laughing. How else would we catch our food so easily? My stomach hurts, was the answer. It's been a long time since we caught this many. And then, all of a sudden, I understood. I was the first meat, the second bone. We men were the food. The ghostly sisters had come to hold their feast, us. My sweat turned cold. I remembered all too well how bothersome bad spirits were, even dangerous. These ones had perhaps starved to death and were so eternally hungry. They themselves had revealed how they struck up storms to force themselves to seek shelter. No wonder my men hadn't wanted to camp out on the spit of land called where the sisters eat. We'll stop right there because we have the conflict. In this space on this dark line, you need to write, Day realized that the sisters were evil spirits and arguing about how to eat Day and his men. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. And then there are going to be some events in the story where Day is trying to solve this conflict. There are 3 events that we're going to look out for before the turning point. All right, I'm at here's what I did. Here's what I did. Luckily, I thought of my father's advice. Never let fear take your mind away, he said. Always think. So instead of giving in to fear, I put fear aside and thought. And into my mind, once I let myself hear it, a plan came. Immediately, I put it into action. Bam, bam! I began to knock on the side of my canoe. I huffed like a bear and shouted in a growly voice, Wasn't he delicious, this man? Best one I ever had. Did you hear that? Said the sister above me. A bear has eaten our precious food. How dare that bear steal from us? I'll stop right there because we have our first rising action. In this bottom box, you would write, Day pretends to be a bear and makes the sisters believe that he has eaten the men. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. Let's keep reading at the top of page 66. They were both furious, and to make them more furious, I stuck the butt of my rifle out and whacked one of their feet hard. Ah! Ah! She cried. Why did you hurt me, my older sister? I didn't, said the older. Did too, shrieked the younger. You and that bear, always lying and greedy. Me and the bear, nothing. Take that. Wah! So we'll stop right there because we have our second rising action. In the middle box, you would write, Day smashes one of the sisters' feet, and the sister blames it on her sister. Press pause to write down the answer and play when you're ready for box 3. In the third rising action, we would say, the sisters continue to fight. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the turning point. Okay, I'm at the bottom of page 66. The 2 sisters began to hit each other, first with their fists, then with sticks, then with rocks pulled from the ground. When they were occupied with trying to kill each other, I loaded my canoe as quickly as could be. I could hear the others doing the same. No doubt, listening to the sisters' plan to eat us, the men had been shaking in their blankets. We'll stop right there because that is the turning point. The men are escaping while the sisters fight. In the climax box, you would write, while the sisters are fighting, Day-Day and his men are able to escape in their canoes. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep reading. Now we have the falling action. How does the story end? Just as we were pulling off, one of the sisters noticed us leaving, and with a scream, she bounded toward us. I was the last one out, steering from behind. I shouted to the men, "Paddle, men, paddle hard!" Still, the evil sister managed to grab my shirt and rip it almost into shreds. See? All right, for the following action, we would write, one of the sisters chases Day-Day while he's trying to paddle away, but Day-Day escapes. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the resolution. And Day-Day tells the rest of the story in this last paragraph on page 67. Day-Day solemnly produced the pieces of shirt that his daughters had used to frighten off the birds that day. Big Pinch gasped and the girls were silent. "Yes," said Day-Day, "it was lucky I got out alive. And do you know, after I hit the ghost with my gun barrel, the gun split on me, refused to let me fix it. Fortunately, we did catch up with the trader, who always made such a good price to us. And luckily, too," Day-Day drew out the last word teasingly, which made the girls' ears perk up with interest. "Luckily, I was able to trade for a few small things." We'll stop right there because we have information about the resolution. For the resolution, we would write, Day-Day's gun splits in two, but he's able to make a trade for a new one and return home safely. Press pause to write down the resolution and play when you're ready for the theme. And for the theme, we go back to how Day-Day decided to solve his problem on page 65. Day-Day, instead of giving in to fear, he was able to stop and think clearly, and that saved his life. And so in the theme, we would write, thinking before you act can save your life. Press pause to write down the theme and play when you're ready for the protagonist and antagonist. And so in this case, the protagonist is the hero of the story. The protagonist would be Day-Day in this story. The antagonist would be the people he is coming up against, or the people who are challenging him, and that is the sisters. So make sure you have Day-Day for protagonist versus the sisters, the antagonist.